Levels to this so much as so. Levels that none of your PhDs, none of your professors degrees, none of your doctorate's degrees, none of your master's degrees, bachelor's degrees, none of your scientific scholarships, none of these things, none of these achievements. There's levels to this. None of these achievements can take you and bring you to understanding, which is the reason why you're all so easily fooled by the things that are seen in this world. Many of you out here in this world have limitations on what you can say. The prophets of God, we have no limitations. Yet we will be tested when these things come down, when these mandates come down on speech. Now, remember this conversation, because I told you that there are certain people that are watching my page, and some of the things that I say, they like to bring into effect. Or they'll choose to discredit me if something's already going. Then they'll choose to discredit the prophets of God by changing the next, by making it go to another direction or something of sort, right? So, let's continue. Micah chapter 3. We're going to start at verse 9. Micah chapter 3, and we're going to start at verse 9. Hear this, I pray you, you heads of the house of Jacob and princes of the house of Israel. Listen, all of you leaders of black people, all of you out there who can get an audience and have people speak so highly of you all of you, whether you be organization leaders, institution leaders, camp leaders, politicians, no matter who you are, this message is for you. Hear this, and I am speaking to all the leaders of the house of Jacob and to the princes of the house of Israel that abhor judgment and pervert all equity. They build up Zion with blood and Jerusalem with iniquity. How do you all do this? Because of the division. Is not one nation under Elohim. That one nation under God has come from the scriptures. Every single black person is supposed to be joined in one nation, as one nation, underneath the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Yahuwah. Now, this will not happen. Not until the return of Christ. When Christ returns, all religion will be destroyed. All politics will be destroyed. All of these things will be brought back to order. Many of you are going to burn in hell. Many of you are going to, if not so much so, many of you are going to receive hundreds of thousands of lashes in torment for long periods of time, where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth, because you all chose to be prostitutes. Now, I have not disrespected anyone in this message. No one. I'm speaking to a wide variety of men as a whole. And if many of you feel as though that you can fit the shoe, then you can put it on, as far as I'm concerned. Her leaders, who? Jerusalem, Zion, black people, the nation of Israel. Her leaders pronounce judgment for a bribe. Her priests instruct for a price. And her prophets divine for money. All of you speak to get paid. Yet they lean on Yahuwah, saying, is not Yahuwah in our midst? I know a camp that says this. They say, is not Yahuwah with us? Calamity will certainly not come upon us. Give it some time. Give it some time. The prophets prophesy falsely, and the priests bear rule by their means. And my people love to have it so. And what will you do in the end? Romans 16, 17, and 18. This is Paul speaking. Romans 16, 17, and 18. Now, and I urge you, brethren, note those who cause divisions and offenses, contrary to the doctrine, opposite to the doctrine which you have learned, contrary and away from the doctrine of the Torah, contrary and opposite to Christ. Avoid them. For those who are such do not serve our Master, Yahushua the Christ. But their own stomachs, their own belly. And by smooth words and flattering speech, they deceive the minds of the simple. But their own bellies. Many of you out there that get paid to prophesy are speaking with smooth words and flattering speech. Meanwhile, you all are scattering the sheep away from Yahushua HaMashiach. And that's the reason why 66% of this people is going to be cut off from the kingdom. Now, I want to pause and say something. I'm going to go into research about that 2/3 doctrine. because something is still not sitting well with me with that 2/3 doctrine. And you all better hope that my notion is right. All of you better hope and pray that I think there's an error in that doctrine, and you better hope I'm right. But as of right now, at this point, 66% of Negroes are not going to make it to the wilderness during the time of trouble. The prophets prophesy falsely, and the priests bear rule by their means. Black people love to have it so. And what will you do in the end? What will you do in the end? Okay. So this verse here, let's go to Deuteronomy 17:15. Let's go to Deuteronomy 17 and 15. Deuteronomy 17 and 15. Deuteronomy 17 and 15. Okay? You shall surely set a king over you, whom Yahuwah Elohim chooses. One from among your brethren you shall set as king over you. You may not set a foreigner over you, who is not your brother. So Christ basically right there just said that black people should set another black person as king over them, right? But did you all catch the twist? Did you catch the twist? Let me read it again. You shall surely set a king over you, whom Yahuwah your Elohim chooses. Christ has not chose any of you niggas today. Not one of you. Not myself. Not one of you. Why? Because here in the blood covenant, Christ is everything now. He's the priest, he's the prophet, and he's the king. Let me repeat that. Christ now has taken all three offices. Even though he's not here in the flesh, he's here in the spirit. And many of you cannot wrap that around your head. And he's going to pass judgment amongst you niggas, all of you, from the low to the high. Any one of you that are scattering the sheep, he's going to pass judgment on you. I'm warning you. Christ now has taken all three offices in the new covenant. He is the priest, the prophet, and the king. He's doing it all for us now. And he's the sacrifice. The priest, the prophet, the king, and the one-time sacrifice. He's doing everything. When all you niggas have to do is return to Yahuwah. That's it. That money will not allow any of you Negroes to do that. Many of the men that many of you all look up to are not brave enough, and they don't have the sense to choose Elohim over money. So woe to you scribes, Pharisees, and hypocrites. Judges 10 and 14. Judges 10 and 14. See, I didn't study this Ukraine thing. Certainly if I study it, I can dissect it. But I'm not looking into it. Why? Because I don't care about it. Because I know that this is small in comparison the birth there contractions. And these contractions are getting closer. The time frame is narrowing for each contraction. They're coming swifter and swifter. Before you know it, we will be in WW3. Before you know it. This is the beginning of the end. The beginning of the end. Now, I'm going to warn you all right now. Every last one of you. I don't care how many Instagram and Facebook followers you have. I don't care if you're the head of the biggest camp or the biggest organization. I don't care if you got respect from the people from one end of the planet to the other. I want you all to listen very, very carefully to this verse. Judges chapter 10 and 14. And it says, "Go and cry unto the gods which you have chosen. Let them deliver you in the time of your tribulation." Judges 10 and 14. Now, I'm telling y'all, because, see, many of you think that you're going to get away with the bullshit. Many of you walk around believing in your religions. And you believe, because the Hebrew Israelite is a religion too. This is not just talking about Jesus and Islam and Buddha and all of these things. It's also talking to many of you people that are in the circumcision, that are with these camps, and you say within your heart, Yahuwah is with us, but you can't even tell the truth about the virgin birth. So who is your God? Now, some of you do. See, because that's why you all have to be very careful. Because Christ, people can't let things go. Why? Because you walk in the house. Let me get a scripture. Now, and I want you all to listen very carefully. Because let me tell you what the majority, 98% of you men are doing. 95% of you men, this is what you're doing. Okay? Now, I want to say something. Before I read this, I want to tell you all that I do love my wife. Right? I love my wife dearly. But I want to read this scripture to you all. And every time, 95% of you men choose not to separate yourself from wickedness. Every time, 95% of you men choose not to separate yourself from wickedness. Because I'm going to tell you what's happening here. As men, we go into our homes and we look around. And we say, I have to put food on that table. I got to feed my family. And I have to do this and I have to do that. And if I don't do this, I'll be worse than a non-believer. Many of us say that the old lady is going to divorce me or do this or do that if I don't produce. Now, therefore, a man should produce, but at what cost? But at what cost? Matthew chapter 10, 37 through 39. Matthew chapter 10, 37 through 39. And it reads, Matthew chapter 10, 37 through 39. And it reads, this is Christ. He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he who does not take his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. He who finds his life will lose it, and he who loses it for my sake will find it. Many of you don't understand this. Now, I want to go to a cross-reference. This is Luke chapter 14, 26. If anyone comes to me and does not prefer, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. Now that word hate there, really it should say, if anyone prefers his father or his mother, his wife or his children, his brothers or his sisters, even his own life, cannot be a disciple of Christ. Many of you say, well, dog, I'm not a preacher, I'm not a minister, dog. I'm going to put my family first. Do believe that there is a penalty for that. You don't have to be a prophet of God in order to follow the instructions of God. You don't have to be a prophet of God to know that there's a high reward in return for putting Christ first, absolutely first. My wife does not come before Elohim. My children don't come before Elohim. Nothing comes before Yahuwah. Why? Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Hold on. Because I'm thinking of these verses. Hold a minute. I want you all to understand why I put Christ first. Why it's so easy for me to put Yahuwah before my wife, my sons, my daughter, my mother, myself. See, none of you niggas can look past this world. That's your problem. You think that this is it right here. You think that this is it. To be spiritually minded is life. And to be a reprobate and to be carnally minded and lovers of this world is destruction. Now, I keep warning y'all, and y'all don't want to listen to me. I warn you over and over and over and over and over again, and y'all don't want to listen to me. Now, I want to apologize for cussing in the beginning and all of that stuff. And I know that many of you hold high regard your achievements in life, and you're allowed to do that. But never forget, ever forget, that all of those achievements have been given to you from the white man. All of them. These are the instructions from God. Why do I put Yahuwah before my whole family? And why do I put Yahuwah before myself? And why do I risk my life to do what I do? Let's go to Genesis chapter 22. Genesis chapter 22. And we're going to read right off the top. After these things, Elohim tested Abraham. He tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham. And he said, here I am. And he said, take your son, your only son. Isaac wasn't actually his only son. But we're not going to get into that right now. He said, take your only son, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. You all know the story of Abraham taking his beloved son, Isaac, up to the mountain of Moriah and is about to sacrifice his son. And then Christ said, stay your hand. It was just a test. So Christ didn't let him kill Isaac. Why? Because Isaac was part of the prophecy, the reason why all you niggas exist today. But Abraham was going to do it just like that. Why was Abraham going to do it? Why was Abraham going to kill his only son? Well, first of all, Elohim told him to do it. But many people will be like, come on, man, why you want me to do this? I mean, Dad, I did everything you wanted me to do. Why you want me to do this? Of all things, they probably would have argued with him. They probably would have went back and forth with God. Many of you would have done that because you all lack faith, even if God was talking to you. So how much less faith do you all have today? Why was Abraham so comfortable with sacrificing his beloved son? That only really means beloved. He had another son. This is why. Let's go to Hebrews 11, 17 and 19. Hebrews 11, 17 and 19. By faith, by trust, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up his son Isaac. And he who had received the promises offered up his beloved, his only begotten son. Abraham is the one who received the promises. He offered up his son, of whom it was said, in Isaac your seed shall be called. So see, Isaac was part of the promise. So Abraham concluded. He remembered when Christ said, in Isaac your seed shall be called. So he knew that Isaac had to have offspring. So Christ said, okay. So Abraham said, okay, let me kill this little nigga then. Even though Christ stopped him, but it was a test. But this is why Abraham was about to do it. Because he concluded that Elohim was able to raise him up from the dead. Abraham knew that Yahuwah, that God, had the power to raise his son from the dead. He didn't put any limitations on God. I'll get everything back in the kingdom tenfold. I'll get it all back. Whatever I lost here, I get it all back. And the kingdom has come unto all of you. Go and cry to the gods in which you all have chosen. Let your gods deliver you when Jacob's trouble comes.